Okay, vocals. So I think the version that I sent you guys 100% had the Slate VMS emulation applied. So I'm using the Slate mic here. I don't believe these do, because this is before I bounced them. So I'm going to have to start off with some of that. I'm going to just go on vocal 1 here and kind of build my basic chain. They are tracked with compression. I know that's not like the technically correct way to use the Slate mic modeling system, but I don't really care. Still sounds fine. I'm running compression before the mic model is loaded, and otherwise it's just kind of a nightmare. And I'm just used to tracking vocals with compression. I like setting it up and tracking that way. And while maybe this is slightly less correct, meh. Let's see. I usually like the 251. I don't remember what I used on the actual tracks, but we'll start there. And then I am going to go ahead and drag over these guys. It's not wanting to scroll for me, so I'll park it there and drag it the rest of the way. Okay, vocals will be group 4. I'll move both of these over to group 4. Haven't really moved any of these so far, so grouping them isn't really doing a whole lot because I'm just sticking with this Brit 4K. But in the case that I do, it might be handy. Those were trimmed down for some reason. Don't want that. We're going to jump to the second verse because I think he kind of like slowly changes his vibe as he gets into the song. And the first verse is a little softer. Second verse is maybe a little more applicable to the rest of the song. So we'll start there and kind of play around with just one vocal track.
Make the children really ring. I'll spend.
Okay, let's bring that up and bring this down.
Spend the day your way.
Where are we gain staging here? I'm gonna actually disable all these for now and make it a little easier. Just have that one to deal with.
Music, dance, and sing. They make the children really ring.
Hoping these are tuned. If not, I'll have to pull in the vocals that I bounced.
Music, dance, and sing. They make the children really ring. I'll spend the day your way.
It's pretty crispy. That must have been hitting some compressors a little hard on the way in. Sounds fine on the mix, so. Let's play around with some of these mic models. I really want to try the, what is it, Blackbird edition? I know they have some newer ones that I haven't had the chance to check out yet. But these sound good. Ooh, that's too hot. All right, let's find another spot. I'm not digging this.
And around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there.
That'll work.
In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. In and around the lake.
Okay, I'm liking the 251 so far. I picked that mic a lot. And I'm adding just a touch of this like Neve preamp modeler. Seems like it adds a little bit of weight to it. We'll see if that hangs around. But for now, I'm going to stick with that and pull it across all of the vocal tracks. First, I have to enable them again. I got them out of my way by disabling them. So I'm going to do that. I have some stereo spread stuff that was wiped when I wiped these sessions, so I'm gonna have to bring that back. All these tracks that say 60 double and 100 double, the ones that you guys got in your Nella Mix sessions were already applied. They were stereo files with some widening stuff. So,
dance and sing, they make the children really ring.
We're looking pretty crispy right now, but I'm gonna bring in those, and the easiest way for me to do that is I have them set up in some track presets. So I'm gonna bring in my track presets just right underneath these, and then I'm just gonna copy over the requested plugins. So I'll put these down here and go back over here, and you can see what I'm working with. So this is a 60. I have a little bit of Widener. It's actually a combination of two plugins that I use to achieve that particular effect. And then a 100 right here, and then the Widener there. And now I have one of each, so I'm gonna get rid of these. I'm not confused by them because I get confused easily. That's what happens when you're in your senile stage of life. And then I can copy these around for where they need to go. So that's a 60, and all I'm doing is I have a 60 and 100 of the same effect. All the difference there is the 61 isn't quite as wide. So my effect things I've panned out 60%, and the 100 is the widest. So I'm just looking at my track names and dragging the plugins where they go, because that's how this was tracked. Harms, high, low. I wonder where I had those. I guess we'll find out.
Dance and sing.
So now you can see how even if I mute this harmony, if I just have these two tracks, I've got the main vocal down the center, and then there's like this wide aspect where the double is kind of like spread out wide.
The music dance and sing, they make the chill.
And I'm achieving that with an instance of this automatic double tracker. So it's kind of got these like floating playheads that are supposed to bounce around at random intervals, and they're also delayed to begin with. And then that wasn't quite wide enough for me. So in my presets, I also have a Waves S1 that is just pulling these like hair out further, both of them.
Children really ring. I'll spend the day.
I'll mute my harmony here. Let's go back over to this softer section.
Hey! In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there.
Such cool harmonies. Like, I don't know that I would ever write that harmony. It's so cool.
In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there.
Okay. So we have our track stuff handled. The goal is to probably not have to jump back into here too much. So some of that prep work we were talking about. Let's go back over to our bus and see where we're at.
Hey! In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky.
Start with some basic EQ, just doing some like corrective stuff, leveling. It's a little pokey in the mids right now. I want to clean that up. I'm going to do a high pass to get rid of any like wind noise stuff that's not really applicable. I sometimes do a low pass too. This is just, these are like the kind of moves that I'm always going to make, and I can just tell that I need to reshape the sound a bit before I even bring it into the mix. I'll do that first, and I'll probably throw a bit of verb on it, and then try and get it soaking into the mix with our other instruments. Let's start with a low pass. I almost always, one of the reasons Pro Q3 is so cool is they've really thought of a lot of shortcuts. So to do a low pass, all I have to do is double click over here, I think below like the 20 or 30 hertz line. And then I always like to sharpen up these, so I can hold Shift and Alt and just click the node, and it cycles through the slope. So that kind of stuff, like, I really appreciate some time savers and some workflow increasers like that. Thanks, FabFilter. I love you.
Hey! In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. Hey! In and around the lake, mountains come out of the sky and they stand there. Hey! In and around the lake, Mountains come out of the sky and they stand there, hey, in and around the lake.
Okay, I'll probably end up using some soothe on these guys. Raleigh's voice can get kind of peaky and mid-range when he starts pushing and gets a little bit of that vocal cord distortion. And we have such a wide range of vocal styles through the entire song, from that low, really soft stuff to the really push stuff. And soothe is going to help us kind of like keep all those more of a level playing field. So once I get these into the mix, we'll probably wait until that stage, but I can definitely see soothe making an appearance. But for now, let's get some verb on these bad boys. Let's start with about that.
Mountains come out of the sky and they stand there, hey, and true summers will be there and laughing too. 24 before my love you'll see, I'll be there with you. Make you early enough, I'll spend the day away. The music dance and sing, they make the children really ring. I'll spend the day away. The music dance and sing. The music dance and sing, they make the children really ring. I will remember you, your silhouette will charge the view of distant atmospheres. Call it morning driving through the I will remember you, your silhouette will charge the view of distant atmospheres. Call it morning driving through the
I'll try adding a little bit of a bass line of a quarter note delay. Again, this is just a delay I go to pretty often. It kind of loaded up when I brought in all my sins. And it's just a repeater that comes with a Slate bundle. I really like this one. It gives you a few tonal options. It gives you like a color knob, which influences stuff. It has built-in high pass and low pass filters. I almost always like to low pass all my delays a tiny bit. These are set to somewhere around 10K, so that's really just taking off the sibilance. But it gives you a lot of cool options. If it can get into like a really big self-oscillation modes with the feedback knob, which I always find fun. The only issue I have with it is that you can get some artifacts if you have a delay trail that's crossing over tempo changes, but that's the case with most plugin delays. They're always going to kind of give you a weird, like, shifty kind of deal over a tempo change. But I can usually get around it. I like it a lot.
Remember you, your silhouette will charge the view of distant atmosphere.
I'm a pretty big fan of just like a kind of baseline level of delay on all the vocals. I feel like if you find that spot where it just soaks into the mix and isn't super apparent, it can add a really nice polish. Let's unsolo this and see if we can find a cool spot for that delay. For now. Pop on some soothe. Something I'm almost always going to want a solo to really dial in, at least to know exactly what it's doing.
Call it morning driving through the I will remember you, your silhouette will charge the view of distant atmospheres. Call it morning driving through the I will remember you, your silhouette will charge the view of distant atmospheres. Call it morning driving through the I will remember you, your silhouette will charge the view of distant atmospheres.
I rarely change the oversampling settings in Soothe, and that'll, I feel like, hit your CPU a little harder. I think it normally does a pretty good job with just no oversampling. But this resolution option does seem to like give me something that I like, and it's pretty passive as far as how much more CPU it takes. So I almost always check this, and occasionally I'll jump up the oversampling too. Maybe if I'm using this on like a mix bus or a mastering gig, I'll crank these up a bit. But in the mix, you got to be careful because if you jump up to like 8 times oversampling, it's going to eat up your CPU real fast.
Call it morning, driving through the I will remember you. Your silhouette will charge the view of distant.
Pair a bit with our references.